sweet. Can everyone hear me in the back? Because the mic does cut in and out. Perfect. I am the type of person that likes moving, so let me know if you can't hear me. There are a lot of great people here in the room that I do recognize. A lot of different business to business, business to consumer, entrepreneurs here. So I hope that everyone does take something away from it. So thank you guys for being here. First things first, you are in the right place here if, number one, you're looking for a way to change or make social media a little bit easier. Now, the biggest struggle I have here with social media is that people think it's very daunting, it's very time-consuming, it's very stressful. And that's something that I really want to alleviate today with all of you here, is to make sure that you at least feel comfortable with a proper plan and direction moving forward, and that you also have, some content or some tools so that you can use at home that are cost-friendly and free. The second thing is, you don't have thousands of followers, and you think it's too late because you missed out on the golden days, but in reality, I'm here to tell you that you are not too late. There are a lot of different platforms out there that do work. I will be going over a bunch of them, but I think the biggest piece here is that there is no glory days. You can definitely capitalize on your social media today. And last but not least, you want to provide value for people who are coming to your page. The next piece here, this workshop is not for you if you are looking for a system that requires you to not put in the work. I say this very lightly, but also very seriously as well, because social media is one of those things that is organic. It is one of those things that does take time. It is one of those things that doesn't happen overnight, and that's something that I really want to stress with everyone, is that it's going to take work. The second piece here is that you're too focused on vanity metrics. What are vanity metrics? Those are followers, those are likes. Those are vanity metrics that people tend to focus way too much on, and is actually a different trend going forward into 2020. And then last but not least, you're looking for growth fast schemes. How many times I've totally looked on Google and said, how to get 10,000 followers in one night? How many times I've been like, should I buy bots? Just to comment so I can alleviate the time. But in reality, it's not really worth it, so that is for other people. Now, here's my promise to all of you. My promise to all of you is I'm going to try my absolute best to provide the biggest amount of value in 40 minutes, which is a big ask, but I'm going to do my best. If one of you walks away with something new today and something that you learned, that would be a win for me. The next piece here that I'm going to promise to all of you is I'm only showing you strategies that have worked. I'm only showing you strategies that I have done personally and stuff that I've done on social media personally that I know work. And then last but not least, I'm going to be providing with each of you, tools and trends that I know that you can use in your social media daily, depending if you're a business or business consumer, it doesn't matter. These are tools that you can use every day. So without further ado, now we're going to talk about 2019 and then we're going to move forward into 2020. The first mistake into 2019 to leave behind is your niche. So you think mindset, business, fitness, or insert niche here is your niche, but in reality, it's your industry. That is the biggest difference here that I want to highlight. Sometimes the biggest struggle people have on social media is that they haven't actually clarified their offering. A lot of times you're looking on social media and you're like, what do they do? Who do they attract? And that's the biggest struggle there that people don't really have, is by being too broad, you are actually losing too many followers, which is quite a different mindset shift. The next piece here that you do want to leave behind moving forward is you're making social media all about you, which I know it's tough because I love making it about myself too, but there's a whole other conversation happening right on the table. So how many times, I'm going to just look here, you've been to a networking event or a coffee event and you were talking to someone and all they do is talk about themselves? Anybody? Yeah, you've totally wasted your time and you're thinking what's happening. That happens on social media as well. So that will just lead to active burnout. You're putting out content for the sake of putting out content without actually thinking about it. So it's not actually solving a specific problem. And then here's the last mistake too, is you're focusing on one social media platform. I know so many people that are like, you know what, don't even focus on anything, just focus on Instagram. That is where everybody is right now, but that's not where everyone's gonna be too. So that's another piece there to leave behind. Okay, so moving forward to 2020 social media trends, that's why you're all here. I'm not even going to show the social media trends right now because I'm the type of person that believes in knowing the insights of what the social media trends mean. So I'll mention them and then I'll show the slide afterwards. But here's the biggest piece here is that it's all about connection and community. What do I mean by that? Human psychology, if you think about this, we've always loved talking to people. We were very social creatures, hence social media. The problem with social media is that it's all on a phone. You're looking at a phone and it's flat. So the biggest trend going into 2020 is the fact that people like movement. People like seeing things move, hence the rise of stories, hence the rise of video content. That's the reason why people are moving towards more video. And also the business piece of this is that you can stretch a video farther than you can photos, etc., quotes. And that, as a business perspective, is a lot better investment because you're able to spend less money, less time on a video than you were to spend on multiple photos and trying to just play catch up. Now, the next thing is diversifying social media platforms and being more authentic. That's another trend that's going on in 2020. And the reason for this is that you've seen the rise of TikTok. You've seen the rise of all these other social media platforms. And the reason for that is, psychology-wise, is people are moving away from that vanity metric. They're moving away from inauthenticity. They're moving towards this thing that's a little bit more raw, a little bit more real. They're not seeing the hustle every day. They want to see the true behind the scenes and the true emotions behind it. And that's another trend there. And the last but not least I'm going to focus on is user-generated content. The biggest trend right now is that people are forgetting that the best advocates for your brand are your internal advocates. Your team, the people that were within your organization, they're the best people to bring your message out there. So those are the trends for social media. Now I put them up there, there's 10 of them. Feel free to let me know if you do want the slide afterwards. But that's the insight from all of it. You see there that there's be creative, stop being boring. You see there that there's stories, that there's being employee advocacy, connection, community. But at the end of the day, the most important part of this is that video has been on the rise because people want to create connection. People are looking for relationships, and that's the piece there. We're good on the pictures? Awesome. Thanks, guys.
I was just teasing her. She's taking notes. I'm like, you know, you can.
That would be faster.
I was a bad student.
Okay, now if you want to go into your workbooks, and I'm going to just go over this right now, you have right there what's creating shareable content. I go into there what the different kinds of content are. A lot of people forget, number one, that you don't always have to create content. You can also share content, which is another piece there. When you are looking at the mistakes and the trends that we're going for, remember when I was talking about how people are so focused on themselves? 20% can directly promote your brand, but 80% should be focusing on educating the public. That's kind of the rule there for the 80-20. Rule of thirds is the same idea. So a third of your social media posts to promote your business, a third to post ideas from influencers or in your industry, and a third to post potential stories of your brand. So that's another way to split it, the rule of thirds. Again, everyone's wondering when the best time to post is. That's probably the #1 question I always get. In reality, bad content can make up for the time that you post. So what I'm going to show today is how to create good content, and it all starts with this. So the entire presentation I have today is structured so that you actually follow it step by step, and then you create it into your content. So what is good content? You go to answerthepublic.com, and you get this guy. He looks pretty great, pretty serious.
I thought it was David Bowie.
He does look like David Bowie. You put in the topic that you want to talk about, or the topic that's not in your industry, but something that people are questioning about, or your niche. I was curious about TikTok, obviously. This is what happens. You get this. You get who, what, where, when, why. You get all the questions that the public is asking. And this is how you base your content. So this is the first base here, is that you're answering a question when you're creating your content. You're not just putting content for the sake of, updating. You're actually creating something out of it. And the #1 question there is TikTok is going to be gone in the next year? That's another question. So I answered that in my most recent YouTube channel. That's kind of where it is too. And then you center your content strategy around the questions that you will be answering. Before I even go into Instagram, I want to say, A lot of people here are probably wondering how they create leads and sales from social media. And then I think the biggest piece here is that there are 3 pieces when it goes into this before I jump into each platform. The first is to clarify. So when we were talking about your niche, we were talking about clarifying what you do. The second piece is to attract. So we just went over that. So your ideal client, you then attract the right person that you want to come into your platform. And then third, and this is probably the most important because most people stop there, they stop at the attract stage, then you go into convert. You have to drive that traffic you're going onto social media onto something. I don't care if it's a different social media platform because it takes a social media platform to grow a social media platform, a newsletter, a website, whatever it is, but that's usually where people stop, is that they forget that there's another piece of driving that traffic. Does it make sense for everybody? I know it's classroom style, but if you do have questions, feel free to just raise your hand, etc. That would be fantastic. Go ahead.
It's essentially much like sales, your funnels.
Yeah, absolutely.
Funnel, is that right?
You do want to bring that traffic to a funnel because I find that a lot of people think of social media just as that brand awareness being the biggest, talked about thing. But social media definitely can be a way to drive that conversation, drive that piece of conversation so that you can eventually get sales down the road. Any other questions while I'm here? Awesome. Sounds good. Okay, let's go into Instagram. Next page. This is probably fun because I love statistics. I love learning about algorithms. I just always loved the numbers that way. And I think the biggest piece here to understanding how Instagram works is understanding its algorithm. Now everyone thinks to themselves, well, I'm going to beat the algorithm. No, that's not what I'm saying here. What I'm saying here is to use it to your advantage so you understand what kind of content you want to put out based on some of the factors. So the first piece here is relationships. If you had shown some sort of relationship with someone on Instagram, and this is why people focus on stories, they focus on commenting, they focus on DMing, direct messaging, is because Instagram recognizes that as a relationship. You have to somehow form that relationship, and they have to talk back. If that's not there, then they won't see your content. So when people are wondering why I can't see your content, it's probably because have you reached out in the past couple of months? Have you mentioned them in a tag? Have you commented on any of their posts? Have you saved anything of that they've said? And that's the biggest piece there, is based on relationships. Of course, the second piece is interest. Most of the time, people are looking for things in their niche, so that makes sense. But the last but not least piece, that this is where it does come down to, is recency. So for recency, what I mean is Instagram is only showing the latest and the greatest. So if it comes down to times to post, recency matters for Instagram in comparison to the other platforms. Other platforms, for example, LinkedIn, etc., it's more based on relevancy. How relevant is that content to my industry? So you can stretch content farther. That's why people see multiple posts all the time. But in reality, Instagram is only showing the latest and the greatest. That's why frequency matters so much. So in there, I do put the anatomy of a great Instagram posts. A lot of people do wonder what hashtags to use. And I do say, based on your niche, to at least split it. Hashtag YEG is very competitive. So if you look there, only 10 of them should be that highly competitive. 20 of them should be less than that, so that you're not competing on the same kind of hashtags. Does this make sense for everybody for Instagram? Is there any questions so far for Instagram? Because I know Instagram is probably the one that we all spend a lot of time on. Go ahead, Rosalind.
Joanne, I'm wondering, how do you choose which hashtags to use, and does it matter when?
Yes, so this is very interesting because I do put this into my Instagram workshop. When you are choosing your posts, you do, first of all, you could search up your competitors. That's one that you can do. The next thing is that there is an app, I believe, that you can search up some of the ones that are top trending for sure. And last but not least, it's also based on your niche. So who are you trying to attract? What are they looking for? And I'll give you an example to kind of answer. For right now, I work for a home builder, right? And they attract right now new families. New families, think about their life stage, right? They probably just got married. So instead of doing, the typical YEG real estate, YEG home, you would go into and find things like yegg wedding, yegg floral, yegg, etc., and trying to build connection that way. So you're trying to think about the end consumer in the same light based on those hashtags. Now, you wouldn't do it every single time, of course. You're basing it off your content strategy of 80-20 or the rule of thirds, and that's why multiple hashtag banks are very important. So I hope that answers your question there. Perfect. Go ahead.
So with the recent update where now you can no longer see the amount of likes, have you noticed that kind of change in your strategy or how you're teaching your clients to go to market with?
Yeah, definitely. I think the rise, or not the rise, but people that are focusing so much on vanity metrics has changed. And I think the biggest piece here for vanity metrics is that people are starting to put out content that they enjoy. And they end up creating content and relationships that people start, recognizing. And that's something that I'm trying to say, and this is probably why going into 2020 is very important. It's starting to create that, that conversation using answerthepublic.com, because maybe it doesn't get that many likes. Maybe it's going to be the type of person that doesn't resonate as much, but it only takes one. So you're starting to put out content that you're not thinking about, oh, I need to get 100 likes, or what are they going to think about this? And that's really nice too, especially because it has moved into the States. So North America as a whole has changed with its content strategy. I think there was a question here.
Oh, yeah. I just have a quick question. So a lot of the entrepreneurs and me myself, my, understanding of hashtags is the more the better, right? And I get this quite often. And actually, at the event I was just at, I was asked this, should you always use all 30 available hashtags? Should you be hyper-focused and maybe more selective? Is there any drawback to less than 30, I guess? Is the question.
Yeah, I think the biggest piece here is, I guess the reason why I had to take a step back here, it does depend. I've seen a lot of people, when they do their hashtag banks, they try to use all 30 because they're thinking to themselves, at least that's 30 ways I can get recognized. That's 30 ways that I can leverage that. However, that's why the variety matters the most. Sometimes I have hashtag banks that are less, depending on the content. I rotate through multiple hashtag banks. I have probably one that's about women entrepreneurs, I have one that's about business, I have one about marketing, etc. And not all of them have 30 because they all have different subjects that just don't relate to each other. I can't find enough hashtags to fill that 30. So I guess the biggest piece here is use hashtags that you think that would attract the right people and create the right content. Who am I to say you can only put 2 hashtags, etc. However, your reach won't get that far. I've also seen content out there that sometimes they don't put hashtags, but because they're constantly commenting, constantly creating relationships, constantly putting in DMs, that for some reason people start to recognize their content a lot better because they're interacting so often. We have this term in the industry, I think it's like fight or flight, where some people, content creators, they just put content out and then it's just crickets. And then they don't comment or anything. What's very surprising is that they put 30 hashtags, they do the thing, they put the whole anatomy into the post, but it only gets an interaction of 1 comment, etc. And then they do the flip side of they post, then they interact, they comment on other people's posts, they check out their page, you check out my page, and all of a sudden your post ends up getting farther. And that's, I think, there's the relationship piece based on your hashtags there. So that's a long-winded answer, but again, it does depend. No problem. Perfect. Facebook is fun because a lot of content creators, we had this running joke. They never released the Facebook algorithm until last year. So we were really excited to finally understand why things aren't getting the traction it is. A lot of people talk about it being a pay-to-play platform. What's going on? Do I have to always spend ad spend? But there are some tools here that I'll probably go over so that way you are able to use Facebook to your advantage. Because at the end of the day, there's a lot more users on Facebook and a lot more possibility to reach your brand. So that's the next page here for your Facebook. The new Facebook algorithm is based on multiple things. I'm not going to go over all of them. I'm just going to give you the insight for here. It's based on the prediction of how likely you are going to positively react to that piece of content. This is kind of interesting because how many times, and I'm totally guilty of this, I scroll through Instagram and I'm just double tapping, just liking because I have to. On Facebook, you do the same thing, it doesn't happen. It just expands. And so the biggest struggle is that the like button's on the left-hand side, and how many of us are left-handed? Not much. So I just end up scrolling on Facebook, and I don't interact, and I don't comment. Now, if I do comment, it's because I find it interesting, I find it engaging, they said something on there. But also, Facebook also released polls. So Facebook polls, etc., to actually amplify the idea of having a positive reaction on your page. So now you can kind of get a little bit fancy and having those pieces there. Also, the score that they're scoring you on is the likelihood that you will positively respond to it, and also based on some of the stuff that you've liked before. It's just trying to create community. Now, how can you, go about this, and how can you make your content about this? The first piece here for myself is to use Facebook groups. Facebook groups is still very much underutilized, especially in Edmonton. I find that it's one of those pieces here that everyone gets a notification when you post on Facebook groups. Nobody gets a notification when you post on your Facebook page unless you have the alert system on. That's one piece there. The next thing is that because we're building community and because we're building connection, Facebook groups is that place where you're able to feel a little bit more intimate about sharing multiple things and creating connection. Because on those Facebook groups, you do put that call to action. People are more likely to share, hence your content shows up more. Now, how do you do this right there? I know a lot of people, when they think of video, they think, oh, I have to be in front of the video, and maybe you're in the business that you can't be in front of your video. Maybe your brand isn't about you, and that's okay. So you go here. You go to www.capping.com, and if I can press play, I wish I could show it to you. You're able to create content on here that texts move for free. Photos move for free. You're able to move, put photos and make it a little bit more dynamic because, again, the trend is people are starting to see a lot more dynamic, and that in return may cause people to stop on your page and actually watch it. And Facebook recognizes that, and if they have a positive reaction to that, then your content is good. Gold. Bingo. Now, I wish I could show you, but unfortunate. Maybe it goes like this. No. You can choose from different templates, okay? So a lot of people wonder, how do I put subtitles? How do I put all these other pieces? This is also free. You can put this here. You can create Instagram story templates, which we just passed for, Instagram borders, collage templates. And I'm always wondering how they did that on Facebook. Now I know. I learned this on TikTok, which is great. How is that for Facebook? Is there any questions for that? Pretty straightforward, right? LinkedIn is one of my favorites because I find that something that I posted a week ago shows up in people's feeds here still today, which is fantastic. Because again, it's based on two things. One, on your next page, you'll see it there, it's about relevancy and it's about engagement. LinkedIn, people are, I find, are a little bit more patient because they want that information. They're looking for that professional development. They're looking to read more. And Sarah actually is going to go over a little bit more on the SEO part of this. But I think people are more likely to engage with you on LinkedIn because it's that community. This is really fun for me. Images are 2 times more likely to be seen than text. Video is 5 times more likely to be seen than text. And I think that's very important, especially because if you're thinking about your content strategy, and basically how we're thinking about this, is if I'm going to be making video, can I stretch it on my platforms? And I'll be going over how to pillar your content so you can stretch it out. So it's not the same thing on all platforms. However, that way you're able to save time as a busy entrepreneur and also save money. I'm all about saving money. That's my thing. How do I create content? Okay, here's another free one for you. It's v.io, which I also learned from TikTok. v.io allows you to put that bar on your platform that shows how long the video is. You know, when you're watching that progress bar and you're watching, you're like, oh, that's cool. That's awesome. Now I know I have to save for 30 seconds. Go ahead.
What was that again, sorry?
Veed.io. V-E-E-D.io. It is free and you can add subtitles. It recognizes the subtitles that are going on there and then you just put it there. And you can also add things to pop up. You can add symbols, whatever you want to do. And then you can reformat it into Instagram, TikTok, all the other ones. Yes?
Is V.io an app that's really easy to use on your phone, or do you need a computer for it?
You can do it on your phone, or you can also do it on the computer, and it's really user-friendly. You just upload it using your phone if you want, and then it recognizes what's being uploaded, and then you just type it in. You can make edits to the captions, and then export. And then there you go. Any other questions while I'm here? Yeah.
So LinkedIn traditionally, obviously not the coaching business, but in the analytics and stuff business, I've captured some of these. Do you find that, obviously you said video gets 5 times more views. Are you able to capture a lot of leads from LinkedIn? Because traditionally I just use it as a platform for articles and whatnot. I've never actually leveraged it for leads on a primary business.
Yeah, I think when it comes to converting leads, and this is always the number one question when it comes to it, is how are you going to be capturing those leads using all social media platforms? So what ends up happening on LinkedIn is that the conversation always stops. It's the same thing, right? So you're clarifying what you offer, you're attracting the right people on LinkedIn, but then the conversation stops. And that's where I think the struggle is that there's that convert piece that's missing. So what ends up happening on LinkedIn is not many people are moving that traffic onto their website, onto their newsletter, onto their whatever it is, your YouTube channel, whatever it is, so they can in turn create a client out of it. What a lot of people tend to do on LinkedIn is they just start to mass message everybody, and then how many times I've gone in that, and I'm like, who is this? And then that in return doesn't create a conversation. However, let's say you put out a good piece of content, they comment on it, you message them saying, hey, thanks for that content. What did you think about it? I'm just looking for feedback. You start creating a relationship online. And that's all it is. Social media is meant to be social. No worries. Types of different content you can post on LinkedIn: long form content, LinkedIn articles, groups, carousel, event recaps, video, company announcements. It is very much a professional network, but I think it's very much growing. And the reason I say this is that Facebook was just for college students. Instagram was just for not Gen Z, it was Gen Xers. And then LinkedIn was just for recruitment. But how many times we've seen that happen, and every single time it turns into something else. You can also set up Google Alerts, so you can become a thought leader in your industry. If you have your Google Alerts set up, anything that's talked about in your industry, you could be the first talking about it. Then people turn to you for news, and then you end up turning clients that way. Because they're like, damn, they're on top of their things. But then in reality, you have your Google Alerts on. So if you see me posting about marketing, that's usually why. Okay.
You can also set them up for your name, for your brand.
That's right, you can set them up for your name and your brand, so that way you know when someone's mentioning you.
How does one special that?
Sarah, would you like to? She is the Google queen, so I.
So if you Google Google Alerts, it has its own page, and you can actually log in and you can decide how long you want them to be. Would you want them to be for like once a week you get all these updates, or once a month, or once a quarter? It depends on how frequently you want to hear about yourself.
How's that for LinkedIn, everybody?
Awesome.
Great. Go for it.
So, I don't use LinkedIn very much, but when I do, this is what, I'm wondering, how do people do this where they have like an automated message where it's like, hi, I'm so-and-so, and here's my freebie. So sometimes I find that really annoying, but I think that's also very smart. How do people set that up?
You're going over that?
I cover mine.
Yeah, go for it.
No, in my presentation.
We're going to talk about that.
Okay, cool.
Sarah's going to talk about it. She's also an AI queen, so I will let her do that. I think there was another question here. No? Okay. Thank you, Rosalind. Next is YouTube. I'm going over 2 more platforms, and then I'm going to tell you how to pillar your content, because everyone's probably, at this point, they're like, damn, that's a lot of platforms. I am going to be at the computer a lot. Don't worry, there is a way around this, so just hang in there. I love YouTube. YouTube is Google, hence why it's searchable. People are searching for your content, whether they're searching how to make dinner, like for myself most of the time, or like how to run a business, how-to tips of what you do. And that's the best part about it, is that when you go to answerthepublic.com, right, bring it back, you can answer those questions in your content, and then your search ends up going up because you're answering the questions in the answerthepublic.com. Now, you do have to pick the right title and the right keywords based on answerthepublic.com, and you have to ask viewers to like and share. But it's one of those things too, when people wonder, why do people post so many long videos on YouTube? Here's the reason. YouTube can put more ads the longer your video is, so your video shows up more. However, If you don't have that much to say, don't stretch it, because I know I'm sometimes sitting there thinking I really have to make this a 10-minute video and I don't have much to say. So that's when they're there if you really want to stretch that. Now the second positive to making a really long video is that you have to cut this. Now I'm going to go over this later, but I'm going to do it right now because I'm going to jump into TikTok, which is a totally different left field piece. This is my next piece, but I'm going to go over the past pieces of content I went over. When you content batch, you go to answerthepublic.com and you pick the topic you're going to be talking about. Then let's say you create a 10-minute video about that subject. You upload that to YouTube. Then you go to v.io and you split that up into 10 pieces of content, 1 minute each. You reformat those 10 pieces of content into your Instagram story, because you can do that on v.io. You can also do that for TikTok. You can do that for Facebook stories or also your Facebook. But then you do capwang.com and you pull out the text pieces of that video that really resonated. Some really good tips that you put in there. Some word pieces, and then you put that onto Facebook. You put that onto the Facebook group so you can spark conversation. You put that onto LinkedIn. And then if you really had time, you then write a long form article on LinkedIn talking about it, which you share on LinkedIn. And then you say in your LinkedIn article, oh, for more info, check out my YouTube channel. And then on your YouTube channel, you say, for more info, check out my newsletter. And then in your newsletter, that's when you sell. So that's the biggest piece there, is that when you're building connections online, and this is probably the most important piece, is when you content batch, your end consumer is actually seeing your message multiple times, hence it resonates with them. You get the brand awareness, you're answering a proper question that is not annoying them, and then they're more likely to know, like, and trust you. And then they're more likely to convert as a business. So that's the piece there. That's why YouTube is so important, because you end up searching for the content and then you're able to convert them there, and then you can be like, oh, for more info, I always put tips on Monday on my Instagram posts. Yeah, go ahead, Jasmine. V.io. I know it's a weird name. I was a little bit thrown off by it too, but I was surprised when I saw it.
My head is hurting.
Yeah?
Is it something that we hire you to do?
It is. Thanks, Rosalind. Yes.
So when you say batch, content batch, you mean like splitting the video, right?
That's right.
Okay.
You're splitting the video, but you've batched it into one subject to stretch it out on all your social media platforms, so you're not recreating content. I mean, how many times you can, make multiple videos? It's really, really hard. I know what it is. You spend 2 hours there and then you edit. Go ahead.
So what would you say, like, for someone who's doing their own video content creation, what's the best software that you would recommend to a do-it-yourselfer?
I have a couple here. There's a free one called Blender, and the second was Adobe Premiere Rush. That one's available on iOS and Android. I know there's a couple people who have Android here, and at least that way you can edit your content and make it easy. Another thing I want to highlight here too for video, now that we're at it, people are more likely to forgive bad video, but they're not as likely to forgive bad audio. So if you have a terrible video quality and you're worried because you're filming it on your phone, if you have really good audio, it will probably work out. Any questions here? Perfect.
So just like a microphone or an extra piece to run into that, would you recommend?
Yeah, absolutely. So on Amazon, I think there's one for $17 that you can hook up. Yep, I'm all about the cheaps.
Frugality.
Yeah, frugality. Yeah, Rosalind.
My understanding is for Facebook, the algorithms would favor Facebook Lives over pre-made videos that are shared. Is that correct?
Facebook Live, I think the biggest piece there is that they're notifying people at that time, so that's why it kind of gets that longevity. Whereas on Facebook, if you just post it, it's a little bit difficult. So then that's why it is. But yes, if you are going to upload a video, you do have to upload it onto Facebook. That's the struggle there, is that if you put a YouTube link, unfortunately, it won't get as much reach. But Facebook Live is just one of those ways that you can definitely, have a different batch of content so that you can reach a different demographic who are watching right now.
Yeah,
so that's good.
That's what I love coaching people on
Totally.
Facebook Lives and converting. So thank you for the affirmation.
No, you're doing a great job. I've seen some of those and they're fantastic. Awesome. Oh, and lighting. Lighting's good too. So, maybe some light on your face. I've seen some really dark videos. That would help. How are we on time? Perfect. Okay, TikTok, my favorite. I'm gonna rush through this one. People think TikTok is just for kids, but in reality it's for adults too. The reason I'm talking about TikTok is because as content creators, we haven't seen something jump up this fast. Instagram was its record. It already surpassed Instagram with regards to how much has been downloaded in the average amount of time. TikTok users are on there for 52 minutes a day because it is quite the tunnel vision on there when it comes to TikTok. Upwards of 7 hours a week. Now, I know there are a lot of people here who probably are very shy about going on TikTok, but you don't always have to show your face. The reason I'm saying this is that the positive is that it's shareability. If you look at all the other platforms, which I just touched on, you put a YouTube link onto Facebook, it doesn't react well. It's a competitor. TikTok, on the other hand, is like, no, share it. We want you to share it. How many times you've uploaded a video on Instagram and they flagged you because you had music in the background that isn't yours, and then they force you to take it down? Whereas TikTok have agreements with all of these artists, so you're able to add music to all your videos without having to worry of the artist taking it down and being flagged for spam and whatnot. So that's another piece there. And I have really yet to find an app that actually works to put transitions and effects all over TikTok. Yes, go ahead. Yeah, it's definitely younger, 100%. However, 40% are older. So it's growing.
What's old, Julie?
Now I feel like I've offended a few people. I'd love to follow up with that like one-to-one, because I actually don't know that much. I just know that it is roughly 12 to 16 that are usually a little bit younger, and then also as well, Zoe is like dancing over there in the back because she knows that she's probably on it as well. But there are people who are 30 who know they're on there, so there is probably 40% that is 30 and older. But I think the biggest piece here is content batching. So when it comes to content batching, remember you can use it for your Instagram stories, you can use it for your Facebook stories, you can use it as a way to create content so you're not, worried about creating more content. You can share it on there. And I've seen YouTube people do is that they would post a preview, a trivia on TikTok, and they would say, for more info, check me out on YouTube. And they're able to convert that way. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. So on TikTok, again, so new, I try to make some silly videos. I haven't figured out how to use it for business. I was watching this audio for achieving some points, but I guess my question is that why people quite often you'll see them, they say, oh, go to my YouTube channel or check out there's some other channel that I can't remember, some other social media platform. That's what you're talking about, is directing them to use that as a leverage point to direct them somewhere else.
Using a leverage point and also setting up your brand. So I think the biggest thing is it takes a social media platform to grow a social media platform. You never know where that traffic is coming from. But yes, it's also to set up your brand. We talked about trends, and I'm going to pull this back from the beginning of this presentation here. We talked about trends in the beginning of people being more authentic. They're looking for movement. They're looking for all those pieces. And TikTok could help you leverage that movement, help you leverage that authenticity of not, being so perfect all the time. It's just behind the scenes, the real raw you in 15 to 60 seconds. And that's a trend that you're seeing moving forward. So at least that way you're ahead of the trend, or you're at least thinking about it when you're creating your content there. So that's the biggest piece there. That's why they use TikTok to convert them onto a social media platform as well. But the biggest piece here is just trying to create the authenticity that not many people see that you couldn't do on other platforms. Yeah.
So how can I use TikTok for business if I don't want to be actually in front of the camera talking or dancing all the time? I'm tired of being on camera. Is it possible to use TikTok for business if you aren't like a speaker or anything along those lines, and maybe you just do pretty things?
Yeah, so this is what's really awesome is I've also tried it out myself. You can do behind the scenes. Behind the scenes is very, very popular because you show before and after automatically. You also do top tips, top 5 tips to set up. For example, I did top 3 things I wish I knew when I started my business. That's another thing there. You can also do tutorials. This is how I found out about Capwing, and this is what I put onto my own TikTok, was I show people how to use a platform in 15 seconds, which people followed, surprisingly. And then last but not least, what you can also do is that you can promote an upcoming video that you have. So that's the other pieces that you could use it for business. Tips and tricks, things I wish I knew, what would I tell my younger self, behind the scenes, before and afters, how-tos, tutorials. Those are other ways to use business. EduTalk has a hashtag right now called, TikTok has a hashtag called EduTalk, EduCareer, EduBusiness, and it's starting to pop up a lot more of people showcasing what it's really like to do your business and the behind the scenes. And what ends up happening is I actually get a lot of questions from people wondering, how do I start my business? Because you're thinking it's a younger demographic, maybe that's what it is, but other people too who are maybe older and see that, they just want to know, and then you're answering it in 15 to 60 seconds. Because the attention span, as you are noticing, is starting to go down. So that's a fun way to do it. Okay. I went over content batching, but with respect to time, I'm going to go over it really, really quick. I made a thing on Twitter. I posted it onto my LinkedIn channel, and then I put a little comment on it. Then I used the same thing from Twitter, and I put it onto my Instagram. For my Instagram, I put a little caption. I know I'm probably losing some people at this point, but that's okay. And then I put it onto my story. So there are 4 pieces of content, 1 post from 1 Twitter post. Think of it like that. Thank you so much for your time. I know I probably exhausted your brains, but I am here if you have any questions afterwards. And I very much thank you all for being here.